Have you ever looked around and realized that the people you used to see every day are suddenly gone? That's exactly what happened to me at 52. My kids had moved out. My work friends drifted away after I retired, and I found myself eating dinner alone, night after night. I never thought I'd be lonely at this age. But what happened next changed my life in ways I never expected. If you've ever felt alone, this story is for you. I remember one evening, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me. The house was so quiet, I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. I scrolled through my phone, looking at old photos, family vacations, birthday parties, office celebrations. It felt like those moments belonged to someone else, someone who was always surrounded by people and laughter. I started to wonder, is this just how life is after 50? Or was there something I could do to feel connected again? That question kept me up at night, and it's the reason I'm sharing my story with you today. Because what I discovered on my journey out of loneliness might surprise you, and it might just help you too. So if you've ever felt invisible or wondered where all your friends have gone, stay with me. I promise you're not alone. And together, we're going to find out how to build new friendships, no matter our age. You know, I always thought loneliness was something that happened to other people. I was busy for most of my life raising kids, working long hours, juggling family events and social gatherings. There was always someone to talk to, always something to do. But after my youngest moved out and I retired, the days started to feel empty. At first, I tried to enjoy the quiet. I told myself, this is your time now. You can finally relax. But the silence grew louder with each passing day. I'd wake up in the morning and realize I had nowhere to be, no one expecting me. I'd make a cup of coffee and sit by the window, watching the world go by, feeling like I was on the outside looking in. I tried to keep busy reading, gardening, even binge-watching TV shows. But nothing filled the space that people used to occupy in my life. I missed the little things, the laughter around the dinner table, the spontaneous phone calls, the inside jokes at work. Even the arguments and chaos seemed precious in hindsight. Some days, I'd go to the grocery store just to be around other people. Even if it was just a quick hello to the cashier. I'd see groups of friends chatting over coffee or couples walking hand in hand, and I'd feel a pang of envy. I started to wonder if I was the only one feeling this way. I didn't talk about it with anyone. I was embarrassed, honestly. I thought, you're supposed to have it all figured out by now. You're supposed to be strong. But the truth is, loneliness doesn't care how old you are or how successful you've been. It can sneak up on anyone. One night I found myself scrolling through my phone, looking for someone to call, but I hesitated. I didn't want to bother anyone. I put the phone down and just sat there, feeling the weight of the silence. That's when it really hit me. I needed to make a change. I couldn't keep living like this. And maybe, if you're watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you felt that same emptiness, that same longing for connection. If so, I want you to know you're not alone, and things can get better. They did for me, but it took a little courage and a few unexpected steps. Let me tell you how it all began to change. I started small. I reached out to an old friend from college. We had lost touch over the years, but I knew she lived nearby. I was nervous when I called her, but her warm voice on the other end made me feel instantly better. We caught up over coffee, reminiscing about old times and sharing what we'd been up to. It was nice to have someone to listen, to share stories with. A week later, I signed up for a pottery class. I had no artistic talent, as my husband would be the first to tell you, but I wanted to try something new, to learn a skill. The class was full of laughter and the joy of creation, and I came home with a lopsided mug that I proudly displayed on our kitchen shelf. It was far from perfect, but it represented something more to me than just pottery. It was a symbol of my journey out of the shadows. I joined a book club, although I had to admit I often struggled to finish the assigned books. But the discussions were stimulating, and I learned to appreciate literature I might have otherwise overlooked. I even volunteered at an animal shelter, surrounded by furry companions who didn't care about my awkward attempts at making conversation. Their unconditional love was a balm to my lonely heart. The months passed and I kept taking small steps, joining hiking groups, attending community events, reaching out to old friends and making new ones. It wasn't always easy. There were days when the loneliness threatened to pull me under and the silence felt deafening. But I kept going, driven by a newfound determination to fill my life with connections and experiences. And then something remarkable happened. The emptiness inside me began to fade, replaced by a sense of community, belonging, and purpose. The laughter of others no longer felt like a painful reminder of my isolation. It became a melody that resonated within me, a rhythm that echoed in my own heart. The turning point didn't come with a big dramatic moment. It was actually something small, a birthday, my own to be exact. I turned 53 that year. I remember waking up and thinking, well, it's just another day. I didn't expect much. My kids called, of course, and a few friends sent text messages. But as the day went on, I realized I hadn't made any plans. No one was coming over. There was no cake, no candles, no laughter echoing through the house. That evening, I sat down with a slice of store-bought cake and a cup of tea. I tried to convince myself it was fine, that I didn't need a big celebration. But as I looked at the single candle flickering in front of me, I felt a wave of sadness I couldn't ignore. I thought, is this how it's going to be from now on? That night I barely slept. I kept replaying memories of past birthdays, surrounded by friends, family, noise, and love. I realized how much I missed being part of something, being connected. I knew I couldn't keep waiting for someone else to change things for me. If I wanted my life to be different, I had to take the first step. The next morning, I made a decision. I promised myself that I would say yes to new opportunities, even if they felt uncomfortable or awkward. I would put myself out there, just a little bit, and see what happened. I didn't have a plan, but I had hope, and sometimes that's enough to get started. I started small. One looked up local community events online. I found a flyer for a book club at the library and a notice about a walking group that met at the park every Saturday morning. I hesitated, of course. I worried about being the new person, about not fitting in, about saying the wrong thing. But I remembered that lonely birthday, and I knew I didn't want to feel that way again. So I took a deep breath and signed up for the book club. I set my alarm for Saturday and promised myself I'd show up for the walk-in group, even if I had to drag myself out the door. I told myself, you don't have to make a best friend today, just show up. That's enough. And that's how it all began to change. Not overnight, and not without a few bumps along the way. But that decision to say yes and take a chance was the first step toward finding new friends and rediscovering the joy of connection. Let me tell you what happened next. When I arrived at the park on Saturday, I felt a mix of emotions. Nervousness, excitement, a touch of fear. As I joined the walking group, I noticed a woman standing off to the side. Her friendly smile and warm eyes put me at ease. "Hi, I'm here. Are you new to the group?" she asked, extending her hand. "Yes, I am. I'm here," I replied, offering her my hand. "Welcome," she said. "We're so glad to have you. Let's get started." As we walked, she introduced me to everyone, helping me remember their names effortlessly. We chatted about our love for reading, and soon I was discussing my favorite novels. The group was incredibly welcoming. They were patient with me, making sure I never felt left out or confused. Over time, I formed a close bond with them, sharing stories, laughter, and even some tears. The support was amazing. When personal challenges arose, they offered words of encouragement and practical help. Their kindness and understanding made me feel truly valued. Finding the walk-in group and the book club was fantastic. It gave me a sense of belonging and purpose. But I still felt a void. Something was missing. I wanted more, something deeper. One day while browsing online, I came across an advertisement for a pottery class. Intrigued, I decided to give it a try. From the moment I entered the studio, I knew I had found something special. The instructor was incredibly patient and encouraging. The other participants were friendly, and the creative atmosphere was inspiring. Each week I looked forward to learning new techniques, creating unique pieces, and most importantly, sharing this experience with wonderful people. Through pottery, I discovered a new passion and a sense of accomplishment. It was more than just a hobby. It was a journey of self-expression and personal growth. I learned that it's never too late to explore new interests and embrace challenges. As my journey continued, I found myself surrounded by a community of supportive and creative individuals. We encouraged each other's creativity and celebrated each other's achievements. Together we formed lasting bonds of friendship and created beautiful memories that I will treasure forever. Looking back, I am filled with gratitude for that pivotal moment when I decided to say yes to new experiences. Saying yes opened doors to friendships, passions, and a life filled with joy and connection. It reminded me that life is never too late and that every chapter holds the potential for new beginnings. What's your story? Have you taken a chance and found something wonderful on the other side? Share your experiences below. I wish I could tell you that my first steps into the world of making new friends were easy and effortless. But the truth? I was nervous, really nervous. The night before my first book club meeting, I must have changed my outfit 3 times. I kept thinking, what if I say something silly? What if everyone already knows each other and I'm just the odd one out? But I remembered my promise to myself, just show up. So I walked into the library that evening, clutching my copy of the book like a lifeline. The room was filled with people chatting in small groups. For a moment, I considered turning around and leaving, but then, a woman about my age smiled and waved me over. "First time?" she asked. I nodded, and she introduced herself as Linda. She made me feel welcome right away, and before I knew it, I was sitting with the group, listening to everyone's thoughts about the book. I didn't say much that first night, but I laughed at a few jokes and even shared a story about why I picked up the book in the first place. When the meeting ended, Linda invited me to join her and a few others for coffee next week. I left the library feeling lighter than I had in months. The next challenge was the walking group. Saturday morning came, and I almost talked myself out of going. But I laced up my sneakers and headed to the park. The group was already gathering, some people stretching, others chatting about the weather. I introduced myself, and to my surprise, everyone was friendly and welcoming. We started walking, and I found myself next to a man named George, who told the funniest stories about his grandkids. By the end of the walk, I'd met 3 new people and even exchanged phone numbers with one of them. Of course, not every attempt was a success. I tried a painting class, but I quickly realized I have no talent for art. My masterpiece looked more like a child's finger painting. But even then, I laughed with the others about my lack of skill, and it felt good just to be part of a group. There were awkward moments too. I once called someone by the wrong name for an entire evening, and another time I showed up for a community potluck on the wrong day. But each little misstep became a story to share, and each new experience chipped away at the loneliness I'd been feeling. What surprised me most was how many people were also looking for connection. I wasn't the only one who felt a little lost or out of place. The more I opened up, the more I realized that everyone, no matter their age, wants to feel seen and included. Those first steps weren't always easy, but they were worth it. I started to look forward to my book club meetings and Saturday walks. I found myself laughing more, sleeping better, and feeling hopeful again. And slowly, almost without realizing it, I began to build real connections, friendships that would soon become an important part of my life. Let me tell you about the wonderful people I met and how those new friendships changed everything. As the weeks went by, those first tentative steps started to feel more natural. I found myself looking forward to the book club meetings, not just for the books, but for the people. Linda, who had welcomed me that first night, quickly became a friend. She had a way of making everyone feel included. And she always had a funny story to share about her grandkids or her garden. We started meeting for coffee before the club, and soon, we were texting each other about everything from recipes to TV shows. In the walking group, I got to know George better. He was a retired teacher with a quick wit and a big heart. He'd tell stories about his years in the classroom, and before long, I realized I was sharing my own stories, too, about my kids, my travels, even my fears about this new chapter of life. There was something comforting about walking side by side, talking about everything and nothing. One Saturday, the group decided to organize a picnic after our walk. Everyone brought something to share: homemade sandwiches, fruit, cookies. We sat on blankets in the sun, laughing and swapping stories. I remember looking around and thinking, this is what I've been missing. It wasn't a big fancy event, but it felt special because we were together. I also started volunteering at the local animal shelter. At first, I just wanted to fill my time, but I ended up meeting people who shared my love for animals. There was Maria, who had recently lost her husband and was looking for a way to give back. We bonded over our favorite dogs and soon started meeting outside the shelter for lunch or a walk in the park. What I learned is that real connections don't happen overnight. They're built little by little, through shared experiences and honest conversations. Sometimes it was as simple as sending a text to check in on someone, or inviting a new friend over for coffee. Other times, it meant being vulnerable, admitting when I was having a tough day, or asking for help when I needed it. There were moments of doubt, of course. I worried about being too forward, or about not fitting in. But every time I reached out, I was met with kindness. I realized that most people are just waiting for someone else to make the first move. Slowly, my circle grew. I wasn't just filling my calendar, I was filling my life with people who cared, who listened, who made me laugh. We celebrated birthdays, supported each other through losses, and cheered each other on through new adventures. Looking back, I see now that building real connections after 50 isn't about finding a crowd. It is about finding your people, the ones who make you feel at home. And sometimes, all it takes is a little courage and a willingness to say yes. But of course, the journey wasn't always smooth. There were challenges and setbacks along the way. Let me share some of those moments and the lessons I learned from them. Of course, I'd love to tell you that once I started making new friends, everything was perfect. But real life is never quite that simple. There were challenges, moments when I doubted myself, and times when things didn't go as planned. For one, not every group or activity was a good fit. I remember joining a local painting class, thinking it would be a fun way to meet people. But after a few sessions, I realized I just didn't connect with the group. The conversations felt forced, and I left each class feeling more drained than energized. It was disappointing, but I learned that it's okay to walk away from things that don't feel right. Not every attempt will lead to a lasting friendship, and that's perfectly normal. There were also times when I felt left out. Sometimes I'd hear about a get-together I wasn't invited to, or I'd reach out to someone and not get a response. It stung, and I'd find myself wondering if I was trying too hard, or if I just didn't belong. But I reminded myself that building new relationships takes time, and that rejection is just part of the process. I tried not to take it personally, and instead focused on the connections that were growing stronger. One of the biggest lessons I learned was the importance of being open and vulnerable. In the past, I'd always tried to put on a brave face, to act like I had everything under control. But I realized that real friendships are built on honesty. When I started sharing my true feelings, my fears, my hopes, even my loneliness, I found that others opened up too. We bonded over our shared experiences, and those conversations brought us closer together. I also learned to be patient with others and with myself. Some friendships took time to develop. There were awkward silences and missed connections, but I kept showing up. I kept saying yes to invitations, even when I was tired or nervous, and slowly, things got easier. If you're watching this and feeling discouraged, please know that it's normal to face setbacks. It's normal to feel awkward or out of place at first. But don't give up. Keep trying new things, keep reaching out, and most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way. Here are a few things that helped me. Start small. Even a simple hello can open the door to a new friendship. Be genuine. Share your real self, not just the highlights. Stay curious. Ask questions, listen, and show interest in others. Don't take rejection personally. Not every connection will stick, and that's okay. Celebrate the little victories. Every new conversation, every shared laugh, is a step forward. Through all the ups and downs, I discovered that the journey to new friendships is just as important as the friendships themselves. Each challenge taught me something about myself and about what it means to truly connect with others. And as I kept moving forward, something beautiful happened. My life began to change in ways I never expected. Looking back now, I can hardly believe how much my life has changed since I took those first, uncertain steps. The loneliness that once felt so heavy has been replaced by a sense of belonging and joy I never expected to find again. My days are fuller now, not just with activities, but with real connections. I have friends I can call when I need advice, or when I just want to share a laugh. We celebrate birthdays together, go on little adventures, and support each other through life's ups and downs. I've even found myself trying things I never would have imagined before, like joining a local choir, or taking a weekend road trip with my new friends. One of the most touching moments came last year when my birthday rolled around again. This time, instead of sitting alone with a slice of cake, I was surrounded by friends old and new who sang, laughed, and made me feel truly special. I realized then that I wasn't just filling my time. I was building a new chapter of my life, one filled with warmth, laughter, and genuine connection. But the transformation wasn't just about having more people around me. It was about how I felt inside. I rediscovered my confidence, my curiosity, and my sense of adventure. I learned that it's never too late to grow, to change, or to start over. And I realized that friendship isn't about age. It's about being open, being kind, and being willing to take a chance. I also found that by reaching out to others, I was able to help them, too. Some of my new friends were just as lonely as I had been, and together, we created a little community where everyone felt welcome. We shared our stories, our struggles, and our triumphs, and in doing so, we reminded each other that we're never truly alone. If you had told me a few years ago that I'd be living this way surrounded by friends, trying new things, and feeling genuinely happy, I'm not sure I would have believed you. But here I am, proof that it's possible. And if I can do it, so can you. So if you're watching this and you've been feeling lonely, I want you to know you're not alone. I've been there, and so have so many others. Loneliness can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be permanent. Sometimes, all it takes is one small step, one yes, or one brave hello to start changing your story. Maybe your first step is joining a group, reaching out to an old friend, or even just smiling at someone new. It might feel awkward at first, and that's okay. What matters is that you try. Because every connection, no matter how small, is a step toward a fuller, richer life. I'd love to hear your stories too. If you've found ways to make new friends after 50, or if you're just starting your journey, please share in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you're feeling stuck, remember, it's never too late to find your people. The world is full of others looking for connection, just like you. Sometimes the best chapters of our lives begin when we least expect them. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story touched you, Please consider subscribing, liking, or sharing it with someone who might need a little encouragement. Together, we can build a community where no one has to feel alone. Take care, and remember, you're never too old, and it's never too late to make a new friend.